Hello and welcome to another episode of Off the Ruck, your weekly rugby breakdown with me, John Ferguson. And it is a golden day with a golden shirt for the gold that the Wallabies are draping around themselves. Joe Schmidt has announced his 36-man squad for the British and Irish Lions Test Series starting on the 19th of July, so just over a week away. I'm ecstatic. The world of social media has exploded with the massive headline story that is, and we'll get straight into it, the redemption arc of James O'Connor. I cannot wait to see this man play in the gold jersey. We got a brief look at him in the gold jersey, and I'll whip these pictures up here. He looks pretty darn good with that green collar, and I must say that this kit is the perfect type of kit to be playing the British and Irish Lions in during a test series, and I hope that everyone has got their hands on some gold merch to be able to wear when the Lions play in their city, or if you're traveling with the circus to play, or to watch them play rather. So, Joe Schmidt, 36-man squad. It is really consistent, it is really solid, and it's got a good mix of experienced youth and those that are playing really well to form, as well as rewarding players with a lot of credit in the bank. So we're going to go through this side piece by piece, break it down, and these are just my first thoughts after thinking about it on the drive home, looking at the squad, and then now I'm going to bring those thoughts to you guys. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm ecstatic. Let me know who you think who should be in, who shouldn't be there, who may get a call up, who's going to be in and around the squad. Maybe they add a few members in the wider training squad in and around the after the Oz Invitational side. Let me know your thoughts in below, and don't forget that to like and to subscribe. It really helps me to bring more rugby content to you guys who are rugby lovers just like me. So, getting into it, I think that overall, it's an extremely solid squad, and it really speaks to the consistency that Joe Schmidt's been trying to build over the last 12 months. During his tenure, he's definitely gone back to the well with a lot of the same players, trying to build combinations, and that's very much evident. He's sprinkled in some of the new players, and let's get straight into them. No, we're not going to go straight to James O'Connor right now. What he brings, they will do that in a little bit. I'm talking about the new players, so the uncapped players. Nick Champion-de-Crespigny and Corey Toole. I think you have to only look back at what Nick Champion-de-Crespigny did during the Western Force game against the British and Irish Lions and say that while he didn't have a highlight reel worthy game, he definitely made all his tackles. He was dominant in contact and never looked like going backwards when he was running it into the teeth of the Lions. So those are the markers that that Joe Schmidt would have liked Nick Champion-de-Crespigny to hit, and he definitely hit them. And he's going to continue to hit them and to be a really good force in training to be able to prepare the other Wallabies to be able to go in, because I can't see him being part of a match day 23 right away for test 1. More into squad selection in a second, but I think that absolutely he brings that physical edge, the type of brawler energy. He's very mature, and so that's really good for a group despite him being an uncapped player. Now, next cab off the rank is Corey Toole, of course. We saw what he did with the Brumbies on the wing, and that out-and-out pace, just much like Max Jorgensen has and Harry Potter, although this debate is still very much in the air about who is actually the quickest over 100, over 40, etc. I think Joe Schmidt believes that it may actually be Max Jorgensen. Maybe that was pre-injury, but maybe he's come back even faster. So we'll wait and hear if Joe Schmidt makes any comment on that in the lead up to the start of the series and throughout. But that sort of pace is really game-changing, and it allows you to chew off more meters than perhaps you honestly deserve to be able to get if you're making a run down the line. And we saw him score that try in the corner for the Brumbies with ease because he has that pace. Had he not had that pace, that could have been a little bit of a 60-40, 50-50, but he made sure of that and he had meters to burn. And that sort of pace you just simply can't pass up on, particularly when he has started to really improve and he has started to nail his defensive hits and his in-the-air ball work, where he's trying to go up for balls and being really, really combative in that aerial game. So those two markers, as well as his lightning pace, plus his general game nous and his sevens background, really makes him ready for this test series. And I think we will definitely see him play during this test series, because I can't see Joe Smith selecting someone with out-and-out pace like that and not selecting him on the wing for one of the games. So then we'll get more into side selection in a moment. those are the two players that are uncapped. Really, really exciting. Good choices. They're probably the pick of the bunch. Now we'll go to the next bunch, which I think are very lucky to have made the squad. And that is Josh Canham and Zane Nonggorr. Starting with Canham, you have Lukan Salakaia-Lotu, who's co-captaining the Oz NZ Invitational side against the Lions on Saturday, so tomorrow. And whether that impacts him being selected for this squad, I'm not sure. Maybe he comes in later, maybe not. But I thought that Josh Canham for the Reds had an industrious night. I think he played with a lot of work rate and a lot of vigor, but I still seeing him getting dominated in contact, particularly in the carry. He's very much decent and able to withstand the blows in the defensive side of the game. He's making good tackles. He's making dominant contact, but it's just that carrying where he gets a little bit too high and maybe doesn't quite show enough footwork for how light his frame still is. Not that he weighs particularly a few kilos. He's quite a heavy, big man, but it's just that sort of boyish youth build that he's going to grow into, and he's going to be one hell of a lock. So I'm glad that we're developing him. I'm glad that we're bringing him along for the ride. How many minutes he actually plays on tour, we'll wait and see. But I am surprised that they overlooked someone like Darcy Swain, who they picked in the original squad. And then also Lukan Salakaia-Lotu, who was a very big part of Joe Schmidt's plans and obviously game management styles in 2024. The next one, Zane Nonggorr. I only think this is a surprise call because we have guys like Aiden Ross in and around now. And obviously we are very light on high quality tight head props. And I think Zane Nonggorr, while not being bad all season, I haven't seen him dominate a scrum. I think he did okay against the Lions without being immaculate. And it definitely wasn't their strongest scrum. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we have Taniela Tupou, who hasn't been firing particularly well, and we'll go straight away there, and we'll start at the top for the side and where we are strong and where we're weak. So, starting in the props, Angus Bell, Alan Altoa, James Slipper, and Taniela Tupou, and Tom Robertson, as well as Zane Nonggorr. So, they've gone Bell, Slipper, Alan Altoa, Tupou, Nonggorr, Robertson. So they've got 6 props. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Just making sure. And I honestly can say this, that if we get an injury in any one of these positions, I think Lou said prop, we can probably sustain one injury without it going to absolute pieces. But if we sustain an injury at tight end prop, we are going to be in big, big trouble. And I think that Zane Nonggorr not necessarily plugs a hole should Alan Altoa or Taniela Tupou go down. Despite Tupou not being in phenomenal form, he is still an extremely powerful athlete who, if Joe Schmidt and the coaching side, along with Mike Cron, the scrum coach, gets that mentality right, he's going to be an absolute handful for anyone that's in his way when he's carrying the ball, and especially who's going to be opposite him when it comes to scrum time. Ellis Genge and Porter did a really good job at combating Tupou in the Waratahs game for the British and Irish Lions, but I honestly do, maybe it was Schoeman. No, it was Schoeman. Sorry, it was Schoeman. It was Schoeman and Genge. Nevertheless, I do think that Taniela Tupou, with a little bit of coaching, a little bit of word in his ear from Mike Cron, will be able to dominate that contest at scrum time. So we'll wait and see that. The props look good. The props are solid. That scrumming ability is going to be fine. Second row, Will Skelton. He's in. Calf-Niggle aside, obviously he may not play in the first one, but Joe Schmidt says everyone's training, and you don't pick someone for a 3-week campaign or for a 3-test campaign played over 3 weeks if they're not going to play. Then you can pick someone else. So this is a really big in for the Wallabies, and let's just hope that Will Skelton gets to full health and is able to play that first test, because I tell you what, we're going to need that sort of bulk and physicality, not only at scrum time, but at the maul, because I do honestly believe that the Wallabies have the wood over the lines at line out time, and particularly at maul time. Scrum is going to be a really good battle, but at maul time with Lukan Salakaia-Lotu, with Will Skelton, apologies, and also Nick Frost with that height and that bulk, that is going to be a seriously good second row pairing, but you can easily slot in Jeremy Williams there, who's also there, and he's going to do a really good job. So I can't wait to see what kind of combination Joe Schmidt picks, because that is really tasty, and that is only a good thing for the Wallabies. In the back row, you've got the 6 and 8s, so that'd be Harry Wilson, Rob Valentini, Langy Gleeson, Nick Champion de Crepney, Tom Hooper, and I think that is a really solid bunch. You park them and you say, anyone that I pick from you guys are going to do a really good job, and you're going to be able to front physically. And then you've obviously got Carlo Tizzano and Fraser McWright, the specialist 7s. I'm going to repeat what I said in the review piece. I'm not convinced by carrying Tizzano on the bench or a McWright on the bench. You start one and then the other one plays the next week. I think it's the only right way to do it because these guys are so highly competitive. But I also think that we've seen now from the game, I know that Tizzano didn't get a full game, but McWright was definitely more active and got pay out of his work at the breakdown. So we'll come back to the team in a second, but forward pack, extremely impressive. And I forgot to touch on the hookers. We'll touch on the hookers quickly. Parecki, I'm surprised that he's in there again, especially with the head knock, but I'm so happy that that's not going to affect him, just like the injury to Will Skelton and Rob Valentini. Their calves aren't going to affect them while they play through this period for this 3-week test series. Absolutely ace. Matt Fessler obviously deserves that after a stellar 2024 season and playing well against for the Reds against the British and Irish Lions. And then Pollard, who's having an absolutely tremendous breakout season for the Brumbies, and then obviously now hopefully carrying that into the Lions series and into the test series, the test season full stop. In the back line, we've got Gordon, White, and McDermott. No room for Ryan Lonergan. That's a little bit of a shame, but nonetheless, I think that they're a really strong halfback trio. All balance each other out. Jake Gordon, I'm looking forward to see what he can bring because Tate McDermott was good for Fiji against Fiji without being perfect or perhaps adding the tactical finesse that we perhaps needed to, particularly when Noah Lolosea went off. In the fly halves position, we've got Ben Donaldson, Tom Liner, and James O'Connor. Well done to James O'Connor, making a return to play the Lions 12 years after having played them as a young buck in 2013. He also played Owen Farrell, the old buck who got invited back for the Lions this time around. So that's going to be really excited for him. He was genuinely, and I say genuinely like that because that's how he says it several times, surprised at being selected, and he only found out because he bumped into Joe Schmidt and a couple of players whilst they were running an errand or something, and Joe Schmidt said, hey, I tell you what, like, congratulations, you're in. And he said, you're kidding. And so he was genuinely, as he said several times, surprised and genuinely shocked. So he's still processing it, but a massive congratulations to him. He is going to add experience, a good voice, and player-to-player coaching, which is something that Joe Schmidt touched on. I wrote a piece for Rugby Pass that I'll link in the description below that you can have a read of all the reasons why I think that James O'Connor was the better pick, and I predicted this, is the better pick for the Wallabies rather than Bernard Foley. That was kind of who I tossed it up between. I didn't mention Tane Edmed. I didn't mention Quade Cooper. I personally just didn't see that those two players were the right players to call in. Now, had he called them in, I would have to eat humble pie and have to eat my hat. But he called in James O'Connor as the player who I predicted and who I said would be the better pick. So go out and have a read. Let me know what you think in the description below or on the article. In the centers, Hunter Paisami, good. They've retained a specialist number 12. They've also got, obviously, Len Ikitau and Joseph Akuso Suali'i. I'm over the moon about that. And I think that if Tom Liner is going to start, I really do believe that Hunter Paisami needs to be there to be able to aid him in his playmaking, because we know that Hunter is such a staunch defensive member and they've defended together all season, and I just feel like they know each other's game. And Len Ikitau can play 13, who's played outside Hunter several times, and I'm talking about at test level, so they really know each other's game. And I know that a lot of people are hype on the Suali-Ikitau combination, but I'm just saying to everyone that please consider the combinations, the cohesion, and also how young and new Joseph Akuso Suali'i is to rugby. Phenomenal athlete, awesome potential, can do freakish things. I just think he's better suited to a 23 jersey, which we'll get to in just a second. So, in the wings, Corey Toole, speedster. Harry Potter, speedster. Max Jorgensen, speedster. Dylan Peach, bulky player. And Filippo Dangunu, power player, good at the breakdown, just like Dylan Peach. They have got such a good combination of 5 wingers. Okay, 5 wingers. And I wouldn't be surprised if you start thinking about James O'Connor as a little bit of a fullback hybrid kind of vibe here, because you don't need to carry 5 wingers. He's carrying 5 wingers, and I'm pointing to this because Filippo Dangunu might need to cover center. You're looking at Max Jorgensen, he might need to cover fullback, because let's be honest, the only fullback that he selected is Tom Wright, and he didn't have an immaculate game or a flawless game against Fiji, nor has his form been that way throughout the entire season for the Brumbies. I'm not saying that he's going to get replaced. I'm not saying that I think Tom Wright will start every single test. But at some point, you have to be able to put a little bit of pressure on him. And I think that's where a Max Jorgensen and potentially a Joseph Akuso-Suaalii comes in. Is there anyone that I've missed mentioning? No, I got Langy Gleeson. I got Pollard. Will Skelton, congratulations, Jeremy Williams, Harry Wilson. No captain pick yet. That is a big point. No captain pick yet, and that's because the Schmidt knows there's a few niggles, and he just needs to have authority on whoever he names as captain. This is what he said during the press conference. He just needs to be able to have authority on that player to be able to be healthy and to be actually play, and not should their plan change last minute due to an injury. Should that authority be kind of vested in someone with less pertinence or importance and kind of as a second fiddle. So that's why he's gone for no captain at this stage. I know that a lot of older pundits and a lot of older players even who have been in these situations want a captain named, and I think that once we get into the test series, like we'll name the first team, I think that captain will be the captain to carry on throughout the entire thing. I honestly do believe that, and I may be wrong, but that's where my head's at. So as far as a test 23 go, I'm going to whip that up here, and I think that after seeing what Alan Alatoa and James Slipper could do together, I honestly believe that James Slipper and Alan Alatoa should start as a unit in the match. This reason being is because they scrummage so well, they are great defensive powerhouses, and they understand the tactical elements of slowing down a game when they need to, and they are important leaders to have on the field. Should James Slipper and James O'Connor both get on, quick side note, they will be 2 of only 3 players having played in 2 consecutive Lions series. They joined the legend George Smith. That is absolutely incredible that club, that illustrious club, is so small, but it may get to 3. But they've been selected now for 2. They have not yet to play. Fingers crossed for them. So that'll be my front row. And I think Matty Fessler, I probably would select Pollard, but I think that Joe Schmidt would select Matty Fessler. If he's healthy, it's just kind of been his go-to man, and I think he likes his all-round game as well as his true throw at the line-out. So he's a little bit more mature as Billy Pollard, not as explosive, but definitely feel like that's where he'd go with that. Second row, to be able to dominate and honestly have a proper dig at the Lions line-out maul, and also just be able to put in a little bit of more presence, I would go for Nick Frost and Will Skelton. Now, I think that because Joe Schmidt really likes Jeremy Williams, I think that it may be Williams and Skelton, but Skelton's definitely starting in that game should he be healthy, because in that test 1, because I honestly believe that you don't draft someone in of that size, that experience, that presence, and not start them. There's no point of bringing him off the bench. Help him push Alan Alatoa in the scrum and dominate that contact. That'll be a deadly scrum. On the flanks and on the side and on the back, in the back row, I'd have Valentini, Fraser McWright, and Harry Wilson to start the first game. Let's just go easy as you go. Stick with combinations that you stuck with last year. You get carrying, you get Valentini, who's faster off the deck, as we saw that Harry Wilson struggled with a little bit of that, and we give Fraser McWright another opportunity to show that he can outgun his opposite in the red jersey, whoever it may be. I believe that it may be Jack Morgan, but it may end up being Josh Van der Fleer or even Tom Curry, and just let him go to town and work for that there. Then In the halves, I think Jake Gordon and Ben Donaldson. I can see why the reason would be we didn't start Nick White and Tate McDermott after last week, but I honestly think that should he be healthy, he's another one of those guys who's really Joe Schmidt's man. So Joe Schmidt goes for Jake Gordon and then picks Ben Donaldson. They've played together at the Waratahs before, so they have that connection. That's not a worry at all. Inside him, I reckon you go Joe Schmidt would probably go Lenny Kitau and Joseph Kuso-Suaalii again, because perhaps he feels that he was holding things back during the Fiji test, and you start someone like that. So that's where I think they should start. If you were to start Tom Lyon, I think you'd have to start Hunter Paisami, but I now think that if you start Ben Donaldson, as I think he will, this is predicting Joe Schmidt's side, I think he honestly will go with the old Lenny Kitau, Joseph Kuso-Suaalii in the centres. On the wings, there's been talk about can you have Harry Potter and Jorgensen both together, and I think that although you can and there's no issue, and they vindicated that and they proved that they were both fast, dangerous and elusive against Fiji, I think you have to put Dylan Peach on one wing. He played too well for the Western Force against the Lions, and he'll be versing a lot of the same players, and that'll be in their psyche when they come back up against Dylan Peach. So then you go to the other, Dylan Peach, and then I think you play Harry Potter. Max Jorgensen, very elusive, very, very good, but I just think that Harry Potter's a little bit more mature, and he still has that top-end speed. So I think that's really good. Really good there. And then you have Tom Wright at fullback. You might not have as much coverage, but nonetheless, if you have Ben Donaldson there and you carry Tom Lyon on the bench, but I think you actually will cover, we'll get to that in a second. I think you have James O'Connor there. Little spoiler alert. Reserve hooker, Billy Pollard, coming on with Angus Bell and Taniela Tupou. That is two running threats, two big boys, and then also the three running threats with Billy Pollard, and also huge scrummaging potential, as well as a little bit more oomph in the scrum. And then you carry someone like Nick Frost on the bench, along with Tom Hooper, who can obviously cover second row as well. And then that is a really tall, big bench combo for the back row and the second row. And then obviously you head into, I think as the Wallabies for game one, to be able to test out all your options and to truly feel comfortable, you have to go with a 5-3 split. So then you end up with Tate McDermott. I honestly believe Tate McDermott is always going to be reserve. If he's not starting, I don't think he should be out of the side at all in any of the games. So you Tate McDermott in the halfback reserve jersey, and then James O'Connor in the 22 jersey, and then I think that you put, is it Andrew Kellaway or is it Filippo Dangunu? Maybe you have to start Kellaway just for the ability to talk things through and to be able to really work things through in the terms of to be able to talking in the defense. No, I'm sticking with the guns. I'm sticking with a lot of attacking threat and a lot of physical prowess and the speed. Harry Potter there, and I think that you put Andrew Kellaway in the 23 jersey. He can cover fullback, cover center, he can cover wing. He does it all, and I think that he has enough credit in the bank to absolutely be there. That's my prediction. That's my immediate reaction to the squad. Obviously, a lot of time before the test to play in 8 days' time. But please let me know in the comments below what you guys think. And please enjoy your Oz Invitational game against the British and Irish Lions midweek team tomorrow. Enjoy the Wallaroos game. Enjoy the Black Ferns versus the Wallaroos, which is going to be an epic contest. And obviously, New Zealand v France. Rugby is now... Test rugby is well and truly upon us here in Australia. I cannot personally wait. I hope you guys are excited as I am. Give the channel a like, give it a subscribe, help me out, and to bring more rugby content to help you guys out. And then I'll catch you guys on the next one. Enjoy your rugby, and until then,